It's 2023. We need to have a chat. Let's get into it. What's up, barbecue fans? Welcome back to Patio. Today we're doing ourselves a little bit of a fireside chat. I've got my timber stoves, pellet heater going here because it's a little cool outside and it's nice to stay warm. Don't worry, got my rum and coke. Cheers, happy New Year's to everyone. And so, let me give you kind of an outline of this video. And look, I am not changing the format. I'm not leaving barbecue. I'm not getting into motivational speaking or rah type fire you up educational videos. That's not my thing. But this is a video that I've been thinking about for probably 6 to 8 months. It comes from some of the comments I see on the videos and some things I'm just seeing out in the world that kind of piss me off, and I just think some people's lenses are broken. They just need to kind of reframe their thoughts. And this is not necessarily a generational thing. When in my 20s, I had some of these same thoughts and I was wrong, and it took me until I got into my 30s and 40s before I realized them. So this is not my generation versus the younger generation. This affects all generations, really. So take it for what it's worth. This video is going to be a couple different parts, right? I'm going to share some of my thoughts, some things I want to talk about. And then in the end of it, I'm going to share some changes in the channel for 2023, all improvements, some things I'm excited about, really trying to step up the channel. So if you don't care about what I'm about to say, I will put some chapters in and you can jump to it. But my hope here is that if I can have a positive impact on a couple people's lives here and change their thoughts and encourage them to do better in 2023, I'll be ecstatic, right? So this comes from a place of encouragement, not from a place of, hey, get your shit together, right? But the first one, and I'll open this up with one of my favorite sayings, is you are where you are because it's something you did or did not do, right? Now, we all look through the world through a certain lens, and this lens starts to be built the day that you're born, and as you go through life, the lens changes its shade, so to speak, right? How were you loved as a child? Were you given lots of treats if you said, hey, stomped your feet and you got treats? Were you allowed to go out for extended periods of time, or did you have a curfew? And did you get grounded if you were late? How did you see your parents interact? Were you brought up by a single parent? Did something tragic happen and you lost both your parents? There's millions of different variations in this, right? And this goes through all your other experiences in your life. And as I approach 50, I'll be 49 in 6 months here, there are some things that have drastically changed from my 20s, right? In my 20s, I thought I knew everything. I didn't want to climb the ladder. I wanted to go right to the top. I was one of those guys that had a million business ideas and I thought I was king shit and I was gonna light the world on fire. And the reality is that I didn't execute on any of that, right? It was all talk and no action. And that's what a lot of people do. It's super common. And then as I got into my 30s, decided that I needed to work a little harder because I wasn't achieving things in my 20s. And in my 30s, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna work smart, not harder. And I had this whole thing, picked it up in someone said it somewhere, and that was my mentality. It took me until my 40s to finally realize that that was all bullshit and it didn't work. In my 40s, I learned that hard work was the only way to get me what I wanted out of life. And that was the cold, hard truth. And today, I think that a lot of people don't truly understand how much work goes on behind the scenes, right? You've got social media things, you've got, influencers who make all these reels and things on Instagram, and, there's lots of YouTubers that make a bunch of money. But I don't think people really understand the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes for some of that thing. There's some creators out there that, they've got 1 million followers and they're doing well. But if you look at someone that's got a 5 million on Instagram, they're grinding out some top-notch content. And this isn't something that they're spending, an hour filming and then they're taking the rest of the day off. They are constantly grinding, stepping up their game, trying to be the top, right? And with that takes huge amounts of effort that people don't really understand. You look at Mr. Beast, some of his videos take months of planning and shooting and filming and editing. I read or I listened somewhere that some of his videos take 3 to 4 weeks to edit, right? 3 to 4 weeks to edit 15 minutes of video. Can you imagine how much time and effort goes into making sure that you've got the audience's attention and you're showing the exact story the way you want? You've got the right B-roll. I mean, to be at your top of your game, you've got to put in a lot of effort, and most people don't really understand that. So getting back to this lens concept, right? You can think about it as perspective. And one of the key things that most people don't understand is you don't know what you don't know. So, from your perspective, depending where you are in the world, you have a certain lens that you look through and a certain perspective that you look through, and all your thoughts kind of point you in the direction that you're going, and you really don't know what other people are doing. You don't have other people's perspectives. All you know is what you know, and it's very easy to think that you know a lot more than you do. I'm guilty of it, completely guilty of it. Right? You guys have seen before in some of my other videos. I mean, I've admitted I've got an ego, and when I was younger, I had an ego that was huge. I still have an ego, right? And I'm not proud of it. It's just part of who I am, and as I've gotten older, it's kind of softened. And maybe one day it'll completely go away. Who knows? I don't know. I think that in another 10 or 20 years, I should be a lot wiser than I am now. But I want to give you an idea just for reference on perspective, and I'll tell you a little story. Imagine this. You're in a bus at rush hour. The bus is busy, it's full, driving down the road, and there's a woman in the front row, and she has 3 little kids, 2, 5, and 7, and these kids are terrors. They're poking people, screaming, making noise, running around the bus, and everyone around them is like, what the fuck is up with this woman? Why is she not looking after her kids? What kind of parent is she? And all of a sudden, a gentleman that was sitting beside her looked at her and noticed she was kind of staring off into space, daydreaming, and he tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" And she looked over with tears in her eyes and she said, "No, my husband just died and I don't know how to break the news to my kids." Your perspective just dramatically changed about that situation. Right? If you're like me, you would have been in the back wondering what the heck's going on with the kids. But now that you have this new information, now you have a whole bunch of understanding, right? And perspective can change like that. And it's important to understand that your view on the world right now is going to change dramatically over time, and you need to accept that. The sooner you do, the better off you will be. The second thing I want you to understand, showing up is not enough. In recent years, there's been participation ribbons and all that hoopla that basically gives everyone a false indication of what life is really like. And I get it, but I don't agree with it at all. And I'll give you a couple examples. Not so long ago, I was playing Xbox for the first time with my nephew. He was like 7 or 8 at the time. We're playing hockey, and look, the average age of a gamer is 45. I grew up with Atari, ColecoVision, Super Nintendo, Xbox, right? I game and I talk to my friends back home. So we're playing hockey, and I've been playing hockey since it came out. Very long time, right? So, not to say that I'm the best player around, but I'm pretty darn good. And I warned my nephew that. So we're playing and I'm up 3-0. And all of a sudden my nephew says to me, he's like, "Hey, Uncle Jake, do you think you can let me score a couple goals so I can catch up and we can go into overtime?" And I was like, "No way." And he was like, "What? You won't help me catch up?" And I said, "No, Jack, that's not how life works. Life is going to beat you up. I'm just giving you a fair taste of how life works. I am not doing that." And he was kind of in shock. But I think it's good to teach people that at an early age. Life is going to beat you up. And if you don't have a backbone and step up to it, it's just going to push you around. And, I think that we've gotten to this point where there's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of "I deserve" going on. And let me tell you something, you don't deserve shit. The one thing you got to understand is that no one around you cares, right? Maybe your family and your closest friends care about you. However, in general, everyone's out for themselves. They want to succeed in life. They're not there to hand you your next success story. You've got to earn that. Another example is I was recently talking to someone and, they're a teacher. They're in their late 30s, early 40s, and was discussing with another teacher who's in her early 30s. And she was complaining about how much work she's got to do and that she's behind and she can't get caught up. And my friend said to her, "Hey, why don't you just take your laptop home and, spend a night, get caught up. Might take you 2 nights, but you'd be up caught up no problem. And she was flabbergasted. She said, I am not working 1 minute longer than I'm paid to. I am not doing overtime. I am not taking anything home. Then don't bitch about being behind. If you can't do the work in the allotted time because you're not organized enough, don't complain. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's amazing to me that people think like that. In the last 2 years, 2.5 years, I've done almost nonstop interviewing. Talked to any person who's in charge of hiring or any other business owners or anything like that. You know, they will tell you it's challenging to find employees right now. And it is what it is. But the thing that really amazes me is that for me specifically, I try and schedule Zoom interviews, video. Go to your car, go home, you're working from home or you're at home for lunch or whatever, or you just duck away. But I try and do them in the beginning, around lunchtime, and at the end of the day so that someone can easily sit down with me for 30 minutes. Do you know how many people I have that don't even show up for their initial Zoom interview? It's amazing. For a Zoom interview. I didn't even ask them to come into the office. I just said, hey, need 30 minutes, just want to learn a little bit about you. We'll set up a second interview, but I do want to put a face to the resume and learn a little bit about you, and it'll be short and sweet. And people can't show up for that. I mean, it's messed up. Why are you ghosting on an interview? You want to get another job and you're ghosting for a Zoom interview? I mean, that's just insane to me. Right now, there's a lot of talk about work-life balance. And again, I get it. I can understand where people are coming from in a lot of ways. But what I think it's important for people to understand is that that work-life balance is going to hold you back in life. You've got to work harder to advance in your career. Or, I mean, let me give you a personal example. Starting a YouTube channel. Lots of people were kind of asking me about it, you know, and when I was really starting, people would kind of say to me, you know, what are you doing tonight? I'm like, editing. I'm like, what? Didn't you do that last night? I'm like, yeah. For me to put out 2 videos a week, I would film Saturday, Sunday. I would edit Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, work all day, come home, you know, go to work at 8, come home at 6, and then eat and then edit from 7 to 11, 3 nights a week, sometimes 4 nights a week. I would upload my videos, then I would have Friday nights off, that was my night off, and then I'd get back to the grind. It takes a tremendous amount of work to move forward. And everyone's like, what are you doing? You're not making any money doing this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know what? You don't see the larger vision. I'm trying to build something. To build something takes time and energy and huge amounts of effort to get there. Now, I mean, I have an editor. I pay someone to edit my time. I just got back 80 hours a month that I was spending editing. So now I can focus on other things, but it took a lot. I had to be able to justify that before I could do that. It doesn't just happen like that. You've got to start somewhere and build your way up, and then you start to get some of the rewards. People just don't think like that. This leads me into a very important concept. Mindset is everything. Now, the original reason why I wanted to have this video, or why this video has been marinating in my brain for 6-8 months, is that in the comments I would see things like, wow, look at those smokers, I can't afford that. Or would love to have that, I can't afford that one. Do you understand what happens when you put out in the world that you can't afford something? You will never afford it. Now, it sounds crazy, or I don't know what the word I'm looking for. You know, I'm not trying to give you sunshine and rainbows, but you should really, really frame that. How can I afford that? Because if you tell yourself that you can't afford it, you're never going to afford it, right? And like, I didn't really believe a lot in the goal setting and positive affirmations and all that stuff until I started reading a ton of books and doing some research and actually seeing it work for me. And I'll tell you what, it works, right? A goal not written down is just a dream, is a saying you hear out there. It's true. But getting back to the whole mindset, if you don't think you're ever going to afford something, you're never going to get it, right? You've got to believe that you can afford it, and you should be asking yourself, how can I afford that, right? Years ago, the saying was, it takes money to make money. This could not be further from the truth. This is a cop-out. It's a lie. Don't buy into it. Microsoft, Amazon, Harley, Google, I don't know, there's countless other companies, all started in a garage. No money, just a shit ton of passion. And they grew it over time, right? That's the other thing. We're in an instant gratification society right now. You order something on Amazon, it arrives the same day or the next day. That's not how general life works. If you want to build an empire, it takes time. Microsoft wasn't worth, you know, even $100,000 in the beginning. It took many, many years to get up there. The one advantage you have right now is that we live in a time where it is so easy to start a side hustle. right? It's not too late to start YouTube. You could start it tomorrow. It's still steadily growing and will continue to grow for years to come, right? I talked about doing a YouTube video for like 3 or 4 years before I started doing it. Now I'm kicking myself because I would have been so far ahead, but it is what it is. I didn't get up the courage to do it or whatever it is. Just jump in. There's print-on-demand businesses you can do. You can self-publish books easily. I mean, anything you've got a passion about, you can figure out a way to turn it into a business. And there's tools that are, lots of them that are free. You've got social media marketing to market your business. It's all free. I mean, it's the easiest time to start a business ever. So stop saying you can't afford something. Ask yourself how you can afford something and put together a plan to get everything that you dream about getting. I mentioned books earlier, and look, I was not someone that read any books in school. I hated reading, and I carried this on the majority of my life until about the last 10 years. I still hate reading, and I don't read. I now listen to books. Now, I don't like to read because I can't visualize what's going on in a book. I don't absorb it that way. But years ago, I started listening to Amazon, and all of a sudden, my eyes kind of opened up. Not Amazon, Audible, same company, but my eyes kind of opened up. Like, do you understand that the average CEO reads 60 books a year? The average American reads 1. Do you think those 59 books have anything to do with their salaries or their success in life? I think there's something to that. So what I did is I decided to turn my car into Car University. Now, I was a DJ for 9 years. I've got, I don't know, probably 400, 500, 800 records downstairs that I loved. I wanted to be a world famous DJ for a long period of my time. I would practice 4 hours a night, sometimes 6 hours a night for years. And it wasn't in the cards. But the point is that I love music. So for me to take and turn my car into Car University, and I just said, when I'm in my car, I can only listen to books 5 days a week. On the weekends, I can listen to some music if I want, but during the week, I'm going to listen to books. And within a few years, I'd listened to well over 100 books and learned a ton. Really changed my mindset. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes from, is just stuff that I've learned over time. Now, by reading some of these books, I fast-tracked a lot of my knowledge, talked to a lot of people. I made, I'm out networking, meeting different people, and they've helped to shift my point of view. But if you're not a book reader or not an Audible, start. I think it'll have one of the largest impact ever for 2023 on you. The final thing I want to talk to you about, get your money right in 2023. What do I mean by this? Well, let me share with you an interesting fact. And you may not believe it, because I didn't believe it at one point in time, but it is, if you can't save 10% of your income when you make 30 grand, you can't save 10% of your money when you make $1 million. Now, you can argue against it and say, how can you possibly not save 10% when you make $1 million? $1 million a year is $83,333 a month. It's a lot of money. You would think at $83,000, someone could save $8,300 a month. But I'll tell you what, 4 to 5 Americans live paycheck to paycheck. If they had a $1,000 car repair, they would have to put it on a credit card. Now, when I say 4 to 5 Americans, this means people that make $30,000 a year. This includes people that make millions of dollars a year, tens of millions of dollars a year. There's an old saying that says, the more you make, the more you spend. And let me tell you from experience, it is absolutely true. The problem with money is that we're not taught it in school. You learn from your parents, you learn from your friends, and here's how it works. When you're poor or middle class, you don't talk about money because it's rude, right? You're taught that money is the root of all evil, et cetera, a whole bunch of sayings. But you know what? Those who are wealthy and rich, you know what they're doing? They're talking about money and how to make more money. And we have to kind of learn on our own. Unless you're going to go read a whole bunch of books, you gotta learn it on your own, and most of us don't figure it out. And in fact, I would have never figured it out if someone had sat me down and gave me a virtual slap because I was stupid with money. And here's how it works, right? What do the poor do? The poor sit there and they dream about things they can have. The middle class buys everything they want on credit, everything they see on Instagram or wherever they're looking. They're like, oh, that new shiny object, I want it. And they buy it on credit and they keep up with the Joneses. The rich spend all their money on assets. Maybe they're buying a whole bunch of stock with a bunch of dividends. Maybe they're buying some real estate. Maybe they're starting a business. Maybe they're investing in a business, but they're putting their money into things that generate money for them. And then they take that money and they buy the fancy things. But the difference is that in their 30s and 40s, they're not buying them because they haven't built up enough passive income to buy those things for them. So they have to wait a little bit later in life to have the nicer things. And then, because they've got more money to play with, they can invest in more things and they can generate more more money, and then they multiply the money, and then they become more and more wealthy. Just because they figured out the game. This is a game that everyone can play. You just got to figure it out, right? You want a short, quick, and easy plan of attack for 2023 and beyond. Figure out how you can save 10%. 10% off your net, not off, what you make. You make $30,000 a year, you need to save $3,000 a year. Figure out how to do that. And it might hurt, it might be painful. Do that until you save 6 months of your living expenses. You have that in the bank. And then you sit there and you save that 10% until you've got enough to invest in something that's going to make you money. Your goal is to get that up to 30 or 40%, which seems like an obscene number. It's going to take time, but every year you get a 4% raise. So next year you can save 14%. The year after that you can save 18%, right? And it multiplies. So it doesn't take you that long. You just got to live at the same level. Even though you make more money, you've got to live at that level until you can finally make that money work for you and you buy something. And look, whatever you do, people are going to talk about it. When I started talking about a YouTube channel, friends were like, what are you going to do that? That's a waste of time. When I wanted to rent my townhouse before we bought our house, everyone's like, oh, I don't want those, you don't want someone calling you when a plumbing issue happens or the heat breaks down in the middle of the night, or, my friends did this or my parents did this and their renter stopped paying and they had to cover it, or they vandalized the house or whatever. They all go right to the horror stories. That's a cost of doing business. And I pay someone 10% of the rent a month, so I don't get the nightly calls. Someone else deals with that for me, right? If you ran a business and you sold t-shirts and every time someone stole a shirt, you closed your business, like that doesn't make any sense. It's a cost of doing business. You're gonna have to do repairs on a house or something like that. So, people who don't take advice from people who are not doing what you wanna do, right? Secretly, everyone wants you to be mediocre so they don't feel like a failure. Dream big and follow through those things. Get your money right. If your money's not right, start listening to some books, right? If you haven't listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Richard Kiyosaki or Richest Man in Babylon. I can't remember who did that book. But those are two super easy books that'll start to teach you about money. The principles are all the same, but start listening to more and more of that and get your money right. Ask some people. Go find someone who's successful that you know and say, hey, what do you do with your money? Because the unique thing about people who are successful, they love to share and teach. They want to see other people succeed. So don't be afraid to ask someone for help. And hopefully, something that I've said today will resonate with you and improve your 2023. Listen, I'm not going to go into some motivational speaker or anything like that. There's just a couple thoughts that I wanted to share. And I think if you take some of this information, some of it's going to hurt, some of you're not going to agree with, some of it in the comments, I can see, I'm probably going to get roasted in the comments for some of these things. But I guarantee you, the way that you're thinking, any negative thoughts you're having right now, or anything you're thinking that I'm saying is wrong, I thought like that once too. Didn't serve me well. Wasn't until I changed this that I started to succeed more. So hopefully you get some value in that section of it. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this video. Let's talk about 2023 for the YouTube channel. Not a lot's gonna change. I'm still gonna do videos every Tuesday. Offset Rookie's still gonna do videos every Thursday. However, what I am doing is I'm gonna be doing a contest per video. I just did a video, my wing video on the Yoder pizza oven. I'm learning how to integrate it, but it was at the very end of the video, and you guys, I watched the stats, you didn't see it. But here's how it works. In the video, I'm going to give you a couple hashtags, and all you got to do is you got to be subscribed to the channel, you've got to like the video, and you've got to comment using those hashtags, and you'll be entered into the contest for that video. Now, in that video, I did a $25 gift card to @bbq.com. I'll prove it to you, email you the gift card, and away you go. No strings attached. But this is something I'm going to do because it's going to give back to you, but it's also going to encourage people to subscribe and comment and like the videos. And I think that that's worth $25 a video to me. It may change. I may do other different things. This is still new, something new I'm gonna try. The other thing I'm gonna be starting to do is I'm rolling out a Patreon, and we're gonna do like a $5 supporter, we're gonna do a $10 level, and that's gonna be supporter. But in there, if you're a Patreon member, even at the $5 level, whatever that contest giveaway is, I'm gonna double it. So I do a $25 gift card, you're gonna get 50 bucks just for being a Patreon member. The goal is once you get up to the 10 and the $20 level, you will start to be able to get giveaways. And I want those giveaways to get big, right? In the beginning, if there's only 10 Patreon members, I can't give away $1,000 whatever, hoogie whacker. But the goal is to get it big enough that I can afford to give away a Yoder. That would be awesome, right? So that's going to happen. And then if you're doing the top level, there's going to be, you know, after X amount of months, you'll get a mug. We'll do a shirt, a hoodie, that type of thing. I'm also going to be redoing all my merch because you guys have indirectly told me that it sucks, you don't like it, you know, it's not really selling. So I was iffy about the designs, but I paid to have the designs done, and I figured the worst that could happen is I can put them out and people not buy them, and I'll start all over. So, you know, I'm learning and I'm going to change it all. So, you know, these are just things that I need to do to help support the channel, right? You don't make a ton of ad revenue. You know, obviously affiliate links definitely help. But you know, I'm not buying cheap meat. I'm cooking every single week, so it definitely does cost some to run a channel. And these are just ways that you can help support me with the channel. And if you do any of that, I'd greatly appreciate it. But you know, with the contests, I want to be able to give something back. I want to give you a reason to get involved in the channel. So those are a couple things that are coming up in 2023. The top $20 level is probably also going to have like a quarterly, I'm going to send you a barbecue seasoning or a spice or something like that, right? So I want it to be valuable to you. So it's not all about me, but I am trying to do a couple of new things to help build the community up and really build the channel. Look, I want to get to 100,000 subs. That's my immediate goal, right? And I'm going to tell you right now at 25, 50, and 100, we're going to do some contests, and I'm going to, you know, reward you guys for supporting me along the way, and you know, thank you. I mean, without you guys, obviously, I can't do what I'm doing today, and really appreciate the support. So I've got big plans for 2023. Hopefully this video motivated you a little bit. Maybe it just tweaked how you look at the world or think about things, or just maybe encourage you to start reading a book or get your money right or something like that. Something out of this video, I'm hoping you got positive, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet and you actually want to see barbecue content, there's more of that coming. So subscribe down below. Have a great 2023.